What time is it? It is 2:37 on Wednesday afternoon. 2:37, and golly, I haven't played the animation Truman Show jingle in a while. Maybe I should. It's not on the hot list, or is it? Let's find out. It is. It is not in the hot list. Oh, there it is. There it is. You guys, this is your lucky day because you get to hear the jingle, right? Certainly the lamest show introduction in the history of show introductions, but eh, it works. So let's take a look at what's been going on. Well, gosh, let's just pull these up off the hot list. Seem to be finding the groove as far as the transition between Blender and Krita, like when to go from one to the other. Seem to be finding that essentially do the pencil test, ink and paint, maybe shadows, usually shadows in Blender, and then dump it over to Krita for backgrounds and final touches like gradients and things like that. So that's a decent looking shot, right? This cuts to a close-up of these guys. Not bad. Last shot I did, well, actually, I guess there were the last two shots. The last two shots were this one, where it cuts inside. And finally, what would it be? It'd be this one. I like this guy. We're thinking of giving him a real manly, sexy voice. Something very pleasant and warm and sweet. I want something, I don't know. I will play with it, but I want to give this guy a voice that's completely, like, the obvious thing to do would be like, yeah, or something like that. And well, that's just, first of all, not very nice. And second of all, I guess I don't want to do that. Okay. Over to Vegas. I actually think before I animate today, I think I'm gonna do a couple shots of a movie that I produced. I'm basically in the process of remastering a movie in widescreen and basically just bringing the color and stuff up to date, kind of a director's cut kind of thing. So I guess I meant to start here. This would actually be the beginning of the current sequence. So I think I got like 4 shots done yesterday. 4 or 5. So it is humming along pretty quickly, especially because we're getting into dialogue now where I'll be able to, like this, the shot of the guy with the funny eyes here, that shot will be able to be completely reused next, after the next shot I have to do. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so like I said, before I divert into animation, hey Inio-san, I'm going to actually divert into video editing for a moment. For a moment or two, or maybe even 3. Well, actually, I guess I need to be on the on this screen, because for the moment, I'm going to kill Vegas 12, and I'm going to open Vegas 7. One of the small bummers associated with editing legacy films is that the I'm it's a different version of Vegas, and when I first produced this movie, there was a video compression scheme baked into Vegas that actually doesn't work anymore in Vegas 12 kind of thing, and kind of a goofy situation, but there it is. So sometimes you have to navigate different versions. So what I'm actually doing right now on the other screen is I'm sorting the scenes from this movie by date. So the ones that were done the most recently are at the top, and I'm just kind of going down to find one that hasn't been done yet. Got a few backup files. The regionals. Wow, this video. Boy, let's pop this in and see what we have. This one, I haven't touched this one. This scene has not been touched in 10 years. Isn't that crazy? Okay. Guess we're going to have to do a little searching. That's all right. We'll look somewhere in there and see if we can find what we're looking for. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I think I clicked the wrong thing. Specify. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do search. Search, my friend. Search. Go. And if it doesn't find it, we'll ignore it. So there's a little bit of this with this project, I have to say. Little bit of the situations where you do have missing files. I'm going to ignore that missing file. And so this is from the music. Let's ignore all and see what we get. Okay, most of the video's all looking good. What's missing then? Okay, it's audio from the music that plays in the background, which basically doesn't matter for our purposes. So those who are like super confused, so this is a movie I wrote and directed in 2000. Golly, what was it? Was it 2011? Yeah, I think it would be 2011. 2011, that's insane. Oh, thanks, babe. Where'd you find it? Oh, couldn't find my flashlight, and the darn thing was, well, Valerie found it, so cool. Okay, so what I'm doing is, number one, on the other screen, I'm going to the images folder, and I'm pulling out the Cinescope graphic. Okay, so that just basically locks everything to the Cinescope aspect. And this is really a long scene. Boy, this is about the longest scene I've dealt with so far. Okay, this is problematic, the fact that its level is not at 100%. I had some bad habits back then in terms of, well, I don't want to say this. In terms of what my approach to color correction and whatnot was probably not the smartest. But, you know, I've learned a few things back then. Since then, I should say. So I'm going to put this at minus 90, just on a lark, assuming it's probably going to be pretty close when I'm doing the Cinescope thing. I got to crop the images a little differently, but I was going to say basically this looks pretty good. Honestly, yep, these are too low. We could actually get a situation where they have to be tweaked on a shot-by-shot basis kind of thing. But yeah, this is... Let's actually leave this at 0 for a moment and see what we have. That's actually probably not too horrible. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, well, let's look at color correction, and I'm going to definitely kill all color correctors, or at least reset them to nothing. Okay, so we might as well white balance. So it doesn't seem to be much of a change. And boy, this is going to be challenging. I may have just been operating on the wrong track, actually. I am a silly goose, so that can be deleted or undone. Okay, so what do we got here? Well, we're probably going to have, you can see right there, we've got some issues. At least if this was ever going to be broadcast, which of course it was when it was released, but so you're talking about we're well into the danger zone for red. If you don't know what that means, it basically means if this were to show on terrestrial television, the reds would blow out your video. It would cause a bad artifact. So anyway, the simple approach to color correction in this particular case is to move the offset. Okay, stop. I think I'm looking at the wrong plugin again. Yep. Okay. Set the offset to above 0. So right there. Okay, set the extreme to 100. That pretty much gets you in the zone. As I did earlier, you might go ahead and check to see if some color correction is called for. I actually don't like that. It's often the case if I white balance in order to find the sweet spot that sort of folds in all the track. Because remember, obviously, you could color correct every single clip, but if we can avoid that, that would be better. And by the way, I didn't realize this was going to happen, but that's me right there. Okay, so actually, let's look at that. Okay, so this, I'm going to say, I'm going to crank this gain up to here. So these blown out, these blown out highlights we had back here, yes, we can allow them to be blown out to a degree. So maybe we want to maybe kind of split the difference to about there. That'll probably be okay. All right, and now notice, by the way, it appears that that actually solved. Just tweet. Oh, no, it didn't. Never mind. Okay, so here's what we do in this case. So we've got this color that basically looks pretty good. What I'm looking at is on the scopes over here, I'm looking at where the flesh tones of their faces appear. You can kind of sense it's kind of in this region. That's actually right where you want them to be. So there's really nothing to do with that. Yeah, in this movie I was playing like a, it's like a Simon Cowell type character. The Simon Cowell of dance, that's the character I played. Okay, so saturation looks good. I don't like the levels here. This is where it could be a little problematic. Yeah, to get their faces up to where I kind of want them. Well, that was one of the challenges of this movie. In fact, it's funny because this particular scene, you know, this was a crazy production in that we had to get these all these dance schools from around the area to all participate, and of course they all wanted to. It's like you're going to be in a movie, so your dance school gets to be in this movie where they're playing a competition, a dance competition kind of thing. Okay, so this is looking okay. We do want an overall sharpening on every scene for sure, which when you set it to medium, 50%, and you render at best full, it winds up being quite a nice, very gentle, unsharp mask type of thing. Okay, so now, that's kind of a creepy picture of me. We need to deal with this problem right here. Here's how you do it. You go here, and we're going to add a secondary color corrector. Secondary color corrector is exactly the same as a standard color corrector, except that a secondary color corrector allows you to select a range over which the color corrector will act. Okay, so we'll just select that region right there, and now we can see the mask has done a pretty good job of folding in all the red. Okay, luminance wise, let's just play a bit, because we really do want to narrow it down to the most egregious color, right? So that looks pretty good. You typically want to smooth a lot, but if you do too much, then it's going to start to desaturate their skin and stuff, which is not what you want. So if this was as wide as it could be, you get all that going on, but that's really not what we want. This is probably right about there's the sweet spot. Okay, now let's turn these off and look what the saturation limit's doing. Okay, that actually tells us a lot more. We totally want to do this. We want to let saturation act as an overall filter. That looks pretty good. And then if we start limiting it even more by hue and luminance, that's what you get. Turn the mask off. And now, when you desaturate everything, that's what you get. Now, we're still kissing the red, which tells me that this, this range, I need to look at the mask again. I don't know, I think we maybe need to go a little wider here. It's one of those things you just kind of feel it out. So That's at 58. Let me see okay. Actually, cranking up the smoothness on luminance seems to be the most effectual if you look at the meter there. We want to get out of this little, what do you call that shape? I can't even remember. Like in math class, what is that shape called? Trapezoid? Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, and we don't want to completely desaturate it, obviously. All we want to do, and this is how, if you wanted to actually change colors, like change their, their outfits from red to blue, this is how you do it. Anyway, there it is. Okay, cool. So now we got that.
Attention, please.
Why is that soloed? Yeah, it kind of bugs me that all the music isn't showing up, but it's all in the soundtrack, so it doesn't matter. This is concerning myself with visuals. Okay, question. Let's look at this big for half a second. Yeah, okay. What I'm checking is the I mean, basically, this looks, it's like, oh, it kind of bugs me because it's kind of yellow. Well, but look at this. This is actually white balance, so apparently those walls were actually tan. So don't get ahead of yourself there, Dave. Okay, now let's go to the dance contest. Kind of run through the whole process again a little bit here. I think I'll just select a region here and let it loop. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, obviously our level here is below 0, so that's not great. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Now our top is dancing right around where it needs to be. Actually, I don't think we need to do too much. Yep, and you can see all the flesh tones are kind of in this region, which is again right where you want them. Saturation wise, we better pause here. I think we probably have the same problem. Okay, so it could be argued that this should actually just be moved. Golly, even here though, the luminance is sufficiently great that I'm thinking my best choice is to just crank down the reds, do the same thing I did on this track, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this 2025 Red Killer. And I'm doing that because I'm pretty sure I probably already have a preset for that. No, it looks like I don't, actually, so fine. Okay, so now I can go to this track, add the secondary color corrector, and use the preset that I just created. Boom. Okay. Why does that appear not to be working? That's kind of weird. It is working. Wow, that is crazy. Let's turn this off for a second. Doesn't seem to make any difference. For the record, the standard color, it looks like our highlights are like a little too hot there, friend. Calm down, boy, calm down. You know, remember, this was in an auditorium that was darkish. So, anyway, let's see what we have here. Yeah, we have to dial in our mask. That's for sure. Let's look at the saturation situation. Oh. I think what I'm going to do is actually start from scratch and select a range. This is what we're trying to target. Something like that. Now, why the heck did that not show up there? That's a little weird. That is strange. Select effect range. Let's try this a little bit here. Is the software acting a little funky? Seems to be. Let's turn off limit saturation and do this one more time. Well, you know, this is what happens every day. You know, you do stuff and then you kind of discover where the problems are. So this is really what I'm trying to do. So I guess I'm not going to let the tool do it for me. I'm just going to do it manually. Okay, so we're trying to find the demarcation effectively between the reds of the skin and the reds of the of the clothing. If you can parse that out, that's going to be pretty close. And then we might as well take that all the way to the top, because anything that's more saturated than this, we're going to want to tone down anyway. In fact, let me even state it this way. Broadly speaking, the simplest way to use a secondary color corrector to deal with saturation problems like this is to just simply forget about hue and luminance. Doesn't matter. We don't care. All we care about is this is everything that's definitely too saturated, and now let's eliminate everything that might not be. Something like that. And then having gotten the skin completely out of it, now we can smooth it a little bit and let a little bit of that come back. And the odds are it's going to actually be pretty close, with the caveat that we might be able to smooth it out a bit more by tweaking the luminance. So that gets us into the safe zone. It's probably worth mentioning that for most streaming media these days, what I'm doing here probably is not actually that important. You know, broadcast levels only matter if it's being broadcast. So, but let's look at the luminance situation. Low to high and crank up the smoothness. As you can see, the luminance doesn't really seem to be having much of a role to play. So let's try hue. We'll make it as smooth and wide as possible. And then just, well, actually, let's take this up. Okay. So now what we want to do is narrow the width and then find the center that sort of focuses on the reds. I mean, it looks like that's probably about as close as you're going to get. And then crank the width back down. That would be a very gentle correction. You know, the problem is that's folding in all this stuff that I don't want to change. So let's turn that back on. Okay, not bad, not bad. Can we smooth this a bit? And maybe widen this a bit? Okay, that's probably not too shabby. Okay, so we're not trying to just get rid of the reds. We're trying to do it in such a way that it has as little potentially egregious effect on everything else, you know, as we can. So this is not the most wonderful scene I've ever seen, no pun intended, in that yeah, I'm just not seeing the top end here that I want to see. That's the main thing. So I do have to kind of play around with finding the sweet spot between too bright and not bright enough. But again, it is an auditorium, remember. I feel like kind of there is not a bad compromise. Okay. Yep. All right, I'm going to save that and call it good. So another scene done. And shall I do one more before I move back to animation today? Well, why not? Training with Grace. Okay, let's give that one a poke. And I expect probably nobody's particularly interested in it. Yeah. Hey, Ross. So we got Enio and Ross here, and maybe that's it. And maybe Enio's already gone, actually. I'm not sure. Oh, golly. Okay, this will be more fun because the color on this scene is horrible. God, what was I doing back then? Well, you know, you learn as you go, and you just try to get better at things. Boop, boop, boop. I'm going to grab the cinescope. So again, Ross, in case you're wondering what the heck's going on here, I'm taking the. This is something I've been sort of poking at as I go for the last couple weeks or whatever. But basically, I'm just doing a director's cut, essentially, of my most successful picture, and also at the same time reframing it in Cinescope, basically. So, all right. Oh, that looks really bad. Good old Tommy. Wonder how Tommy's doing. All right, I'm just gonna do this by feel. Right about there's probably as far as you'd want to go. Overall, does it look about right? Ah, that's gonna be a problem. That's definitely gonna be a problem. Well, no, it isn't. Her head was actually literally cut off. Okay, it is what it is. In other words, in the original HD footage, she was cut off. Okay, so let's just work with this one. This is a really good study if you want to learn about, you know, just film and color correction and all that kind of stuff. It's probably a pretty interesting exercise. So we'll add the color corrector. And then what we're trying to do is we're basically trying to do essentially three things. The least important is to get the would be white balancing. It's actually important, but it's not like, you know, the world's going to keep turning if the white balance is not exactly white, you know what I mean? So, so I'm just grabbing a couple ostensibly gray tones. Yeah, see, and that gives way too much of a blue cast. This is what I've been finding is when I do the color correction. Usually if you do the color correction and then basically pull it back just a little bit, that's going to be pretty good. Okay, so now let's deal with what we really want to deal with, which is levels. Okay, step one. This we don't care about, even though it's above 100. Why? Because it's a window and it's blown out. It's blown out and it's going to be blown out no matter what we do. So this color information is more interesting. Obviously, if I push this above 100, then as you can see, everything becomes totally blown out. Now, in this case, that would not necessarily be a bad thing. We got to look at a few other things first. First of all, let's get the bottom above 0. Okay, and now as you can see, Riley is totally blown out. So again, we can blow out the windows in the background. That's fine, but as far as she goes, not so much. Now I know this shirt is white, so. Oh man, okay. According to this, is that right? Am I seeing this right? Maybe I'm seeing it wrong actually. Okay, we'll keep rolling with it. Yes, okay, those are blown out, so they can be a little above 100. That's okay. So what are we looking for here? And by the way, if you look really closely, you can see that as you go up, it's clamped. What is that telling me? Actually, it's telling me to suspect. Wait. It's telling me to suspect, look at my levels and make sure I don't have a video track that's actually set to, you know, less than 100%. That would be uncool at this point. Okay, so let's say, where is Larry's flesh tone? His face is basically right here. Okay? So, I mean, levels-wise, it's actually about right. I am feeling the need for the sharpening. So yeah, I've been basically cranking out like a couple shots of this a day, you know, to just in between other things. Okay, back to this. Okay. I'm basically saying let's expand the saturation to the point where it starts to feel icky. Something like that. God, 1.5. That's a pretty big jump. And we're dancing with disaster in the yellow region, but let's just go to this second, well, I guess it'd be the third circle right there. Probably okay. Again, we're looking for the compromise. Okay, and then just glancing at this, it looks just a little too saturated to me. It looks a little unnatural. So let's change that to 1.2. And then what we'll do is like you do with EQ with audio, you want to turn it off and on. honestly, I have to say I actually like the color a little better before the change. But the problem is what my eye is responding to is actually contrast. And what I'm feeling there is actually this little drop from below 0 to above, and unfortunately it's actually too low. So that you do have to trust your meters, I have to say, because otherwise you can wind up um, what looks good here. You want to do what's going to look right on the largest number of devices and whatnot. So I'm gonna give back a little bit of that contrast by raising the bottom. I'm going to give back a little bit of that with the gamma. So 1.2 here, 0.8 there. That's a pretty good. That's not too bad. And I'm not seeing. Honestly, that's probably not ideal. So I guess I'm going to fold this back even just a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we'll keep rocking. So the next track up, I should look at this stuff. I don't know what this stuff is downstream. Is this just more footage that we didn't use? I think it is. Let me look at it and see if it. You're beautiful. Well, there's the classic shot where the boy kisses girl. This was the moment. You can imagine it was. That was so stressful for Natalie's boyfriend. Was he the boyfriend, or were they married by that point? But I don't know. But he had a really hard time with her kissing him on screen. Was it? I mean, you kind of understand, I guess. It's like, dude, it's a movie, okay? It's gonna be one moment, then it's over. It's only happening this one time. Now, I'm just curious what happens if we pop that down there. Well, obviously it changed the framing, but let's just take the conservative middle ground here and go minus 70. That's probably going to be okay. And then my suspicion is that we've got some white balance issues. Let's reset this to none just to see what we have. Yeah, okay. All right, let's be quick and simple about it. First thing let's do is let's go to the highs and just assume that we probably want to color correct. Okay, as you can see, that feels too extreme to me. But on the other hand, usually the pixels aren't wrong. So I'll pull it back a little bit, but the truth is that's probably there's probably more blue in this shot than my eyes are sensitive to right now. So I'm going to trust the meters for the moment. That could change, but okay, so now we want to look at this. The bottom needs to be a little above 100 or above 0. The top needs to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100. So we're trying to clamp it to that region. And then we'll use the gamma to kind of fine tune, partly based on what just feels right. Like that feels pretty good there, I would say. But then it tells me that, well, wait a second, your gain, well, I don't know. It's pretty clamped, isn't it? Let me suck this way down and see what we get out of there. Okay. Just trying to bring back just a little bit of the detail in the shadows. So instead of fussing over the gain, in other words, instead of fussing over the top, what I probably should do is, having pushed the gamma up a bit, and if there's pro color correctors out there, they're probably cringing at the fact that I'm doing this largely by eyeball. But just adjusting the offset, just moving the overall scope of it up or down, probably will pretty much do the trick. So that's feeling all right. Now we got to go back to this one. So I wonder if there was a lighting change or something. Yeah, I do not remember why these shots are in different. Well, I mean, I guess her clothes are different. So, anyway, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Reset to none. Get this at least kind of in the ballpark. We saw that we wanted to push the gamma up a bit before. Yeah, I mean, probably just a little bit. Yeah, it'd be okay. And then just get it all within the safe zone. We don't have any saturation problems. Arguably now, we've got the opportunity to crank the saturation up and kind of bring this back to life a little bit, and that seems to be working nicely. Just to be safe, I do want to sample Tommy's shirt. Yep, same thing. Just a little bit of a push away from the blue. All right, so golly, it kind of bugs me though that this. Let me do this here as well. Actually, right there. Huh. Diggity dog. That does feel on the yellow side to me, but for now we're going to keep going with it. Like I said, I don't remember why we had to put, or I should say why I had to put the this in its own track. It's been a long time, almost 15 years. So I guess what I was trying to do here was reset that to none. We've already got the sharpening on. Good, good, good. Back to this, and now let's just get this all in the neighborhood in terms of levels. Something like that. We can sacrifice, again, the windows. We can sacrifice the brightness in the windows if that's what it takes to get the flesh tones up to really like here. So I'm going to say that's starting to blow it out. So I'm going to go like that, and then maybe say let's push the gamma up a little bit. Yes, there we go. And then we can probably feed a little more saturation into it to get the flesh tones kind of where they want to be. And that feels bright. Okay, that feels a little abruptly bright. So I'm going to say let's, well, I mean, obviously we blew out the windows, so let's use the gain to correct for that. And maybe the saturation, let's come down just a hair. Okay, so the only thing that's bugging me at this point is that there's definitely a warmer cast here. This one's actually okay. This one, definitely not. This one, not so much. So, wow. That's crazy. That's already pushing. I think I'm going to touch the mid-ranges. Let's just get aggressive with it and see what we're doing here. Okay. I'm just going to not depend on the highs for that push in the warm direction so much. Lean a little bit more on the mid-ranges, and here kind of same thing. I think I'm going to leave that there for now. There may be a time in the future where I decide to revisit it yet again. This one, 1.183 on the saturation. That feels better, just a little bit more. And just for kicks and grins, I want to see what this does. Yeah, boy, that's really strong. It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much, friends. Okay, let's save that, and then back to animation. Fun, fun, fun. What are you doing? Where are you going to release the director's cut? And how old? Hey, Tom, by the way. She was, what was she? That would have been like, she would have been 20. She would have been 20. And, where are you going to release it? Well, it'll be wind up getting released everywhere, you know, just like my cartoon. I've got a good relationship with my distributor, and, sorry, gotta transition back to this screen. They've treated me relatively well over the years, and so I'm sure I'll just do that. So what do we got here? Control home, and boom, control end. Whoops, you got to be over the timeline to do that. There we go. Okay, so now obviously we need to go to the fills layer at the beginning here and just insert a blank key, which means hit the I key, insert blank keyframe. Okay, so what I've been doing, and it seems to be working pretty well, is using the vertex color material and then just switching to vertex colors when I'm filling these characters. So each character has their own palette, and this would be Tavern Keeper. Right. So, as I mentioned yesterday, when you select colors in the palette, at least in Blender 2.93, double check and make sure the color actually changes up here because it might not. Okay. Why do we have this rogue? Oh, that's the, sorry guys. Need to go into the mouth layer and insert a blank keyframe. Back to the fills, I say. Okay, this one's a bit more of a pain than some because I was a little sloppy here with the dude's hair. So I need to make sure I create some closed shapes. Probably, well, okay, that was pretty inaccurate, wasn't it? Yes. So this is probably the classic animation Truman show in that, I mean, it's just whatever I'm having to do today. What is it like to be a real producer of real cartoons? Well, there's a lot of drawing involved. And digital painting. And file management. And of course, in my case, voice acting. And music composition. And background painting. Okay, let's see if this will fill. Wish me luck, friends. Ah, not too bad. The shadow layers clearly need to be turned off. Well, I tell you what, let's put blank keyframes in there. Shadow 2. Insert blank. Shadows. Insert blank. Okay, now that was probably stupid. I should have done that before. But that's all right. I can just add more fills. Well, at least I kind of thought I could, but apparently I can't. So what is going on here? Oh, you silly, silly goose. Classic Dave mistake. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Let's backtrack here, guys. Let's go back to before I did the fill because this is revealing itself to be kind of dumb, and I don't really want to be overly dumb. There we go. Okay, what I should have done at the very start is make sure there's a blank keyframe on the shadow layers because basically you can't see them on the screen. And so then you go to do your fill operations and things just kind of don't work. Look at that. Lot better lived experience there, friends. Okay, so is this going to fill? I wonder. Yep, now it will. I want to turn the... I mean, that's okay. Because now we can go like this. Right? Technically, I really should do that, like that, like that. Okay, and I think his shirt was blue. Yep, his shirt was the dark blue. Boom. Okay, so I guess we'll do shadows. Why not? There's no harm in doing shadows. I'm going to look at the chat, see if there's anything going on. Nope, nothing going on in the chat. Cool. All right, so shadows. How do we do shadow? Well, number one, we choose the shadow color. But actually, to be fair and honest, well, why does that say stroke color and then it shows the two? That's a little strange. Let's go back here. Shadow filled. As you can see, it's actually just black. I don't even know why it's called shadows because it's actually just black. That's because in Blender, if you're going to do shadows, you want to do the opacity in the layer, not the material. And I'm not going to explain why because I've explained it a million times and I'm sure you guys already know what the reason is. Don't ya? Don't ya? Up, stop everything. I made a critical mistake. I forgot to switch back from vertex color to materials mode. And if you do that, why, you're asking for trouble with a capital M, as Rat Trap used to say. I wonder if there's anybody listening right now who understands the pop culture reference, which is to say, if they know who Rat Trap is. I used to love Rat Trap. The classic quote, of course, being, "We were all gonna die." Anybody remember where that's from? I'm sure you do. But if you don't, you know, you could probably be forgiven. So, boop 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 boop. Okay, cool. So, do we do the mouth here? Why not? Did I have a mouth color? I don't remember. I don't think I did. I'm just going to stick with the shadow filled color because we can always just turn down the opacity to make the lip sync work. So, the question then becomes, well, what's his line of dialogue? Oh, he just says make sure, and then the other guy jumps in and finishes his sentence for him. So, I'll go I'll go like that. Boom, boom. And I'm just going to do this the old anime way. Actually, these should be immediately adjacent. And then this slit, well, it would be this one actually. Duplicate that here. And let's see if it plays. Okay. Why is this showing up here? Yeah, that is the same shot. Oh, because my ending frame needs to be 244, not 245. Silly. Okay. So now, just for this, yep, we'll just pop that down to there. Okay, so the way I've been doing this is I just go to the RAM disk, which, as you can see, is empty. There's nothing in the RAM disk. So then, no matter what I'm working on in Blender, I just render it. It gets rendered to the RAM disk, and then I bring it into Krita, at which point it can be purged from the RAM disk. No problem. Okay, so, new image. What time is it, by the way? Oh, 3:25? Holy smokes. I gotta wrap it up, guys. However, let's get this at least dialed in and ready to rock. So, let's add images from... Why, the RAM drive. You did say the RAM drive, didn't you? Yes, yes, I said the RAM drive. Poof. Okay, so this needs to be, of course, 8 frames per second. He gets cut off in mid-sentence. And is basically 3/5 filled with keyframes. Well, actually, strike that. Blender would have rendered all of this, so actually this is fine as it is. So I'll make it 12 just to keep it fair. But yeah, this is a very brief shot. Okay, so let's save this as, and this would be JK, this would be new folder 03-90-K. I do like using all caps in my file names and folder names for no apparent reason, but I do. Okay, so now we need to figure out, based on what's been going down in the edit, we need to jump over to Vegas. I guess I need to rerun Vegas 12. So I'm loading Vegas 12 so I can look at the kind of the color and the stuff that was going on before I ended my last session. So we'll put this on the preview screen. Okay, so we got okay, so shadows coming in, shadows on his left. This guy, yeah, I mean, okay, that'll work. Okay, cool. So what we want actually, let me look at this again. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep this real simple. I'm gonna go to my backgrounds, and I think just, pick your texture really. I'm gonna say I'm just gonna throw this in and just see what happens, because it's all gonna be defocused anyway, so it's not like it matters. A key, it's stretched. I don't care. I am going to flip it, I think. Yes. Um, because he would be, yeah, because he's got the light coming from the other side. So let's put him in a group. Add a layer. That layer is alpha locked. And let's just not even think about this very much. Let's just get in there and do it. Let's just get in there and kick some hootie. Like that. Okay, that's it. Do we want to put it in overlay mode? Whoops. Not saturation, you fool. Honestly, I think I like it better in normal mode in this particular case. Okay, so the background is basically problematic because it needs to be defocused. Frankly, it's tempting to bring it into Vegas. See, the thing is, Vegas has a very good defocus, like a bokeh defocus filter. Krita, you're pretty much stuck with, the old, this type of thing. So let's just do that. And I'm thinking, of course, that layer can be deleted. This one can be put in a group. Let's put something over top of it so that we can kind of do the same thing we did over there. This one will be in, I think, in overlay mode, because we're just trying to punch up the contrast. I should say the color cast. Let me see. Yes. It's a little too extreme though. So we want about like that. Okay, and then the one thing I would probably add in this case is something like that. Okay, but if you're going to do that, that actually suggests maybe this would be better in overlay mode. No, definitely not overlay mode. No, normal's the way we're going to have to go. So, I mean, if you wanted to, obviously you could do something along these lines, and it would not be a crime to do so. But I don't know. It feels like overkill. It's like I'm trying too hard to do this fancy smancy colory stuff. What I have now is pretty consistent with what's been going on in the show. Let me see. See, I like these, but they feel a little strong. I know. Let's take this, but let's redo this. Let's insert an animation keyframe actually. So this must be set to duplicate. Auto key dupe. That's very strange. Nope, auto key blank. Okay, what just happened? Did I? Yeah, I accidentally soloed my layer. Okay, so this is the first shot to come about in a while where the levels of contrast and stuff are kind of bugging me. I guess my problem is golly, I mean, we can do it here. We don't have to come back to Blender to do it, but I kind of feel like I should have added the second shadow layer. So for the moment, let's just do this as simply as possible just to see if I'm thinking what I think I'm thinking. Okay? Which would mean basically something like that. You know, it would kind of come around his nose, of course, but just I'm wanting that harsher level of secondary shadowing. Yes. Oh my god, that okay. Problem solved. That was basically what I was missing. Okay, so now let's make this, let's make these beams a little smaller. And also, let's let them kind of fade out. Inverse square rule, remember. Let me do that. Let me just do that one again, all right? Okay, that's cool. That actually looks pretty good. Okay, do we want to try to punch up the overall vibrance of this shot? Well, how would you do that if you were going to do it? Well, I'd probably add one final little touch of this, and then I'd go to the complement and go like this. I would put it in overlay mode and then turn it all the way down and just see if I like what it's doing. Yes, that's okay. It quickly becomes too much. But yeah, I mean, that's not bad. Gentle, my friends. Okay, so this needs to be an image sequence of 03-90K, obviously. So we want to delete the J, put in a K, and this needs to match the naming convention, K period. Render that out, stick it in the show, and then I'm going to have to wrap it up for today. Or at least for this afternoon, anyway. Okay, so back over to Vegas. Let's pop it in, see what we got. 39K. Render, boom, boom, boom. 8 frames per second. There it is. Pop it in there. We do not want any resampling going on. Not on my watch. And then this is just going to be duplicated over here. Okay, so let me look at what we've got in the script and make sure that's working for me. And I'm going to turn the other preview off. So he said our princess runaway bride is still on the loose. Unbelievable. Make sure you... Okay. Oh, I see. We're going to have to tighten this up. Yes. Well, okay, so he blanks. Yeah, make sure. Okay, so he's going to say make sure. This is probably confusing. The problem is I'm looking at two things at the same time, and I needed to get my hands in position so that I can stop this. Short explanation, meaning if I hit play and I go, oh, I want to stop here, and then I hit the space bar, it goes back to the beginning, which is exactly what I don't want to do. I want to get the blink, ploop, and then stop it. Okay. So he says, I'm going to put in a temp marker there. So he says, I want you to make sure you. Okay. I'm going to say, I want to change the line of dialogue. Right now, he just says make sure, and the guy interrupts him. And I don't like that. I want to make it a little longer line of dialogue that can begin while we're still looking at this guy. Excuse me. So, real quick change. I'm looking at the script right now. I'm finding the line of dialogue and just making a small change. small change in the dialogue. So he says, all right, well, make sure. And that's as far as he gets because the other guy interrupts him. So bear with me as I'm in the other screen, just double checking the script. Huh. Sorry, guys. I'm looking at the script, and it kind of is like a dyslexia moment where I'm really having a difficult time finding my way through the script right now. So I'm going to... Okay, I finally found it. Okay. So he says, our princess run away by souls. I will make sure. Okay, got it. Okay, now we're back here. Yeah, well, I want you to make sure you... Okay, and then he says his line of dialogue. He says, I'll make sure we're stocked up with ingredients. That's it. That's it, friends. Sorry that took so long with me looking at the script. I don't like to make minor changes in the animation that reflect back on the dialogue without going to the script and changing the script. Once things get out of sync in that regard, if you allow it to continue, pretty soon there's no relationship at all between your script and the show you're producing, and it will bite you. It will always bite you. Okay, so let's grab this, delete that marker, and I think from an animation standpoint, again, at least for now, that's it for me. We'll get this, double check this. Yeah, that's looking good. By the way, he says, yeah, it's going to be a busy day. Let me jump back here. So this shot doesn't need to be done because I already just did it by repeating the prior one. And he just says, yeah, it's going to be a busy day. And because, you know, creatively I can't sit still like an idiot, I actually changed the framing of this one. There is no reason to do that. Now, honestly, in a way, I kind of like that drawing better, but no, it doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, going back to the show, let's just repeat this. Okay, I want to look at the script. Yeah, it's going to be a busy day. That's it. That's all we needed. Okay, so the whole sequence is done now because I was able to repeat those two shots. Cool beans. Any questions from the peanut gallery? Let me look. Nothing. Okay. No one cares. Well, friends, you had the opportunity today to see the true grunt work of a working media professional, I guess, or something. I don't know. But that is it for now. You're welcome, Tom. Honestly, there's one thing I want to change while I'm here. You know, here's what I want to change. I don't... I'm going to take this whole thing, put it in a group, and add a filter mask, which normally, obviously, color adjustment is what we want. But yeah, to me, it's like the whole... I don't want to add a color corrector to the individual clips in Vegas, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a colors operation so it just looks better. And as long as we're here, let's take our secondary shadows and give them a tiny blur. Yep, there we go. Even maybe 1, 2, 3. It might be too much. All right, cool. Render, re-render. Pop over to Vegas. Make sure we're happy with how it looks. That should be an improvement. Yeah, that's an improvement. Okay, and then actually, I want to remove. I gave myself a couple frames of leader here. I want to remove at least 2 of them. So it just flows, yeah, right into the dialogue. That's perfect. Okay, cool. So, all right, that's it. You guys,